Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gems of Life show. My name is Fadhwa. I am your host. Every Friday, 6 p.m., you can listen to our radio show, CKMS Radio 102.7 FM, Friday, 6 p.m. And you know what? I am honored. I'm truly honored to be in your presence. I am very appreciative that you were able to take some time to come in and watch our videos and listen to our shows. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, thegemsoflifeshow.com. That's our YouTube channel, the Gems of Life Show, not com, the Gems of Life Show. And you can connect with me. There's always an email. I put it right below there. Connect with me if you have any questions or you just want to chat. So today I am actually super excited to have my next guest here on the show. My good friend, my sister Regina, she was here on our last show. If you haven't watched it, please go and watch it. And we talk and we dive deeper into the depth of the void and validation, seeking validation. If you haven't watched that, please go in and pay a visit. All right. I am inviting my good friend here, Miss Regina, my sister. Welcome.
Thank you so much, my sister. I'm so honored to be back on your show again. I just can't wait to hear what we're going to talk about and how we're going to unpack this because, you know, I'm full after what we just experienced. Mm-hmm. Thank you for inviting me back.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And you were actually talking about that event we just came from about an hour ago. And this was women who came and just put together a really, really amazing webinar or workshop, you may say, on gender-based violence. You know, and I was able to have the opportunity to be the keynote speaker for that event. It went really, really well. We had amazing speakers actually on that. And I'm so happy that you're able to join us and be able to be part of that and partake in the conversations as well. And I hope you picked up some gems from that today as well.
Oh, yes, I did. I heard some things that you have spoken about as well when you talked about forgiveness in a lot of your past sessions, your Gems of Life sessions, where you talked about the importance of forgiveness. That's one of the things that I really walked away with most of all when they talked about the trauma that you go through when people hurt you, when people misuse you. You know, this woman was talking about her childhood and how she was treated very badly because she was overweight, and how she was an overweight child and she also stayed overweight as she got older. And then she was divorced a few times in Africa and how it was looked down on. So when she left us with the message of forgiveness and how you have to be intentional about it, I was like, wow, that's really something I could use, you know, having forgiveness in your heart, even though people hurt you.
Yes, that's so powerful. And often we hold on to it, right? Because we're thinking holding on to this pain is going to serve us. And the thing is, it's only hurting you. The person that, you know, you're holding the pain against, they've moved on with their life. It's like nothing has happened. They've moved on. They have no idea that you're the one who's suffering. So what is the cost, right? What are we willing to sacrifice here? And oftentimes we sacrifice our wellness. We sacrifice our own beingness in terms of letting other person to hurt us. And they're not even anywhere close to our vicinity. They're not even in our lives at that moment, but we hold on to it. And you're right. I always talk about forgiveness in all my workshops, because I truly believe to find healing, we need to start learning how to forgive ourselves. And forgiving that person, you're not doing them a favor, you're actually doing yourself a favor. And I truly believe to heal ourselves and to go past our wounds, we have to be willing and to allow ourselves to open up to forgiving. And we are forgiving those parts of ourselves, for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. But one thing that I jotted down after that was, you know, when you go through things, right, and you think because, and this is what was one of the takeaways that I got in that session, was that even though I have forgiven people who have hurt me in my past, it doesn't mean that I'm still not triggered by that trauma in my life. Because I'm like, wait, if I've forgiven that person that hurt me, why am I still triggered when certain things happen in my life? Why is it still triggering those areas, right, that I say I'm healed from? So I realize it's because even though forgiveness was part of the healing journey, I might need something else to really further the healing, or is healing like a lifetime journey?
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's a really good question, right? How is it that you think you've forgiven the person, yet you're being triggered, right? And it goes back to any incident that has happened in your life with that person predates that incident. So that's what we struggle with. We think, oh, I've forgiven that person. But guess what? Yes, you may have forgiven them, but that wound is still within you. It predates that person. It predates the event with that person. It predates the person even before you met them. That's why it's still there. And it's reactivated anytime you meet somebody who actually mirrors that part, right? And that's what we fail to realize. I share about this story months ago. I had a friend who was going through a lot of stuff, right? And I didn't realize at the time, my response to her was, I'm thinking, I'm a friend, I'm supporting her. And I lashed out with emotions, this person doesn't deserve you. He's not worthy of you. Why are you giving him all that attention and focus when he's not even worthy of that attention and focus, right? You need to put that attention back to you. And when I lashed out, it was coming from a place I didn't even realize, from that place of pain. But guess what? 3 months later, going through my own healing process and opening, you're unpacking the layers, and I'm unpacking those layers. One of the layers that I unpacked, and I talked about today, that broken piece that we have, I found the broken piece, and I found the broken piece that linked to my outburst 3 months prior. And I realized that I wasn't lashing out at her. It was that part of me that was lashing out. It was that pain that was never cleansed or cleared, right? And here I was thinking, no, I've forgiven these people who hurt me, or this, they brought a lot of trauma in my life. They caused a lot of pain. I have forgiven them. But why was I responding that way? Why did I react with that outburst, emotional anger? Where did that come from? And I come to realize that whatever I was feeling and what I said was true for me, but it predated the people. It predated the incident. So there I am thinking, oh my goodness, I'm saying to this person, you are worthy of respect. You're worthy of being treated with dignity. You're worthy of being valued, right? It was me saying that. It was those parts of me that were never validated about who I am. So it was me, that part of my pain, that broken piece, was actually speaking up and saying, you are worthy, you matter, and you need to value you. So the outburst, yes, I may have forgiven that person, it's well and good, but now this, whatever is happening, predates this person. And we need to look back and we think, oh, because we tie every wound or emotion or anything that happens in our life, we tie it to individuals. What we need to realize is we need to separate that and see that individual, what they did, they just mirrored back what I was feeling. They just mirrored back what my experiences are. But oftentimes we don't have that level of awareness.
Yes, that's exactly it. I was saying, I'm so glad that you had that level of awareness to hear yourself, because even when I was talking to you about a friend of mine's recently, remember? And I was talking about, I was feeling justified about, being that friend, just like yourself, where here I am saying, why are you thinking about this person? They weren't thinking about you, and they're not even worthy. I did the same thing. And I remember I told you that story, and then you were like, you relayed this same story to me, and you said, Regina, do you realize that there's some triggers there that's making you respond in the way you responded to your friend? That you're not really supporting her by taking it in, taking it personal. You should just listen a little bit. You were very soothing and very clear. And you even gave an example, the same example about how you lashed out towards your friend when she was telling you about someone who mistreated her. And I still didn't get it, right? And so I think I responded to you and was like, no, Fadhwa, I don't like the way he treats her. And I was still justifying my position. And then all of a sudden I had like this quiet moment, and it was like, wait a minute. I am being judgmental. Wait a minute. I do have some triggers there. I do have some old stuff that has nothing to do with my friend, right? This is her process. This is her journey. This is her walk. I'm internalizing it as it's mine. Like, oh, if I can just put on her shoes for her and do this for her, right? Let me do this for you. But she has to do it herself. So I thank you because you listened with an open heart. You didn't even judge me when I was going off like that, right? You remember that moment with your friend, and you passed the torch to me, and it helped me so much, like you did today. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about what you did today, that aha moment I had during the presentation.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like, this is what I always say. Anytime somebody comes with a problem to you and they share their problem with you, their problem now no longer becomes their problem. It becomes your problem. And how do you know that? It's how you react. If you respond from a place of caring and compassion and kindness, then nothing has been triggered.
Yes.
If you react and there's emotions and there's judgment there, something has been triggered. Something that was just bubbling under the surface, waiting to come out. And that person just triggered it. And now that problem is no longer their problem. It becomes your problem. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead and share. Mm-hmm.
When you talked about the things that happen to us in life, like some of the trauma that we experienced is from basically, it predates us, right? So it's something that comes from, it might have came from your parents or your grandparents or somewhere in your past, right? So I know you've always told me, go further back, Regina. When I've talked to you about certain things, you're like, and I think I got it. Like, I think this is why I'm like this. This is the root cause of why I react this way. Or this is the reason why I feel this way. And you're like, go back a little further. Well, today when you said that sometimes your trauma predates you, I don't know what it was about. I don't know. I just think it's your gift, period, right? Because when you said it, it's like the light bulb went off, like, really? Yeah, I think so. And then I started thinking, it's like I got the vision of my mother, the trauma she experienced before I was born. And then after that, with my father attempted to kill her, stab her 2 times, right? And my sister told me about the story. And then I'm like, okay. And then when she went to her mom and told her mother what she had experienced, and her mother's like, well, that's your husband. You can't leave. And then after that, she ends up pregnant by this man. And then she has me. And then she's carrying all these emotions in her womb. You imagine? So I was conceived in that. And then my father left, right? So then every time it feels like there's going to be someone leaving my life, someone's going to just abandon me, there's the trigger of abandonment. It's like, from my father. So when you say to me, go back a little further, that was one thing. And then today you're like, okay, your trauma can predate you and your life now. It could be your mother's trauma that's been passed down to you. I'm like, oh God, Fadhwa, thank you so much. Now I got to unpack that.
One more piece to unpack, eh? You're like, thank you, Fadhwa. One more to unpack among many.
Yes.
And that's how we find healing, right? That's how we find healing. And even for me, it's just every day for me, it's just a transformational moment by moment, right? It's like revelation. You unpack one moment and you look at that piece and you realize, oh my goodness, this is what I've been going through all my life. because there was that missing piece, right? And I was talking about that today. We have that broken pieces within. It's like I'm 45 years old. I have 45 years worth of stuff carrying on my back. And guess what? Even farther, because now I'm carrying the trauma before that predates me. Right? And just like you said, with your mother, I was conceived and my mother got really, really sick. She was really, really sick. By 8 months, she was already in hospital. She had to be in the hospital for a month, right? Because she had a really high blood pressure. So that stress, right, can have a huge toll on that unborn child. I'm the firstborn, and being in the hospital in a small village in Africa, not knowing who's going to survive. Is my mother going to make it or I'm going to make it? So that stress alone, right? And then when I was born, when my mother delivered me, she was not even conscious. She was in and out of consciousness, when she gave birth to me. And guess what? She gives birth to this tiny little baby, that much. My grandmother used to say, I was so small, I could barely feed her at the palm of her hand. That's how small I was, right? So my trauma started from the day, from the moment I was in my mother's womb. Because by the time I was born, I was already that child, the weak, small child, right? Before even I could speak, before even I could say anything, I was already, bang, it's already there. I'm packing it. That was my first piece, right? And nobody thought I would survive it. I was so small and so weak, I could never even drink my mother's milk, her breast milk. That's how weak I was. I didn't have that. They used to feed me with a tiny spoon, drop by drop, right? So that's how I grew up. So that my biggest thing for me is growing up like that and remembering that they actually thought it was best I was left in the hospital, because I would not survive it. There's no point taking her home because this tiny little baby, she's not going to pull it through. So that idea, I wish I was never told, because it stuck with me, right? That the idea that somebody had said it's better she's left at the hospital. Bear the pain of taking her home and then, she's not going to survive it. The nurse who was there looked at everybody else in my family and they said, do not underestimate the power of that little young girl. She fought the jaws of life. She fought through the jaws of death, and here she is. And one day she told my grandmother that she will take care of you. She will bathe you and she will take care of you. And I remember my grandmother used to cry every time I did that, because it came to a point where I was bathing her. I was taking care of her. I was changing her, right? So some of this stuff that it carries. And what is that broken piece for me? I grew up struggling as a young girl, with my weight, underweight, from a very young age. So the teasing never stopped, this teasing never stopped. So what did I think? Everybody else must be right. So I never spoke, I never shared. So the emotional connection there was not there, because how people saw me was they saw me through my weakness. They never saw me in my strength. So I didn't recognize that I was strong. I recognized that I could stand up and speak for myself, that I was strong enough. And that for me affected me into my adult life, in relationships, where I would literally sit there and somebody would say the most degrading thing to me and I'll just be quiet. I'll stay silent. It's that broken piece. It follows us right into our adult life. And I will sit there. The person will disrespect me, dishonor me, degrade me, disempower me, literally just dismember me like this, emotionally, physically, just cut me into tiny pieces and throw it there. And I will not say anything. Why? Because it goes back to my childhood. Not once somebody will say, you are powerful. Just because you're skinny and you're underweight doesn't mean you're weak, right? So those moments carry with us, and those moments create a detachment in our lives. So for me, it created a detachment. It created an emotional detachment. It created a physical detachment where I could not speak. I could not speak for myself because I didn't believe I was strong enough or worthy enough to speak up, but also emotionally disconnected. because I learned to do that as what? As a coping mechanism.
Yes.
So anybody could say what they could say, and I'll just look at them because I learned how to put that wall in front of me. Right?
When you put that wall in front of you, were you also taking in the energy? Were you feeling the impact of the words that people were speaking, or you just felt powerless to defend yourself? What was it?
I felt, for me, it was just powerless. It just left me powerless.
I get the vision of you as a little girl going through this ridicule, and I got a little tears in my eyes because I just always felt protective of that child in school, even though I was a child as well, but that child that would be ridiculed just because, right? It didn't matter if she was big, small, they just people taunting at that child, right? And that child not responding, not having a voice, not being able to say anything, just frozen, and I just felt this need to just hold them and comfort them. So when I'm hearing you say this, I'm just like seeing you, imagining you in like a setting amongst children or whoever, taunting you, and you just not being able to respond. And it's nothing like not having a voice. It's nothing like not being able to speak, because my mother even told me that I didn't talk a lot until like the age of 5. Like I was pretty silent. And it wasn't until I got older that I was like, what is that about? Like usually if a child is quiet and they don't speak, when, something is wrong. Either it's developmental or it's mental or it's traumatic, So I'm like, what kind of trauma did I go through? And then, when I had like nightmares, of this woman, imagine I had visions of this woman. I would see her in a setting, right? And I got to find out it was a church next to my house. That was always in my nightmares, with this woman, just me and this woman. And can you imagine, it took me till maybe 2 years ago for my mother to mention and describe that woman of my nightmares, and said she worked in that church. So what I'm saying is that sometimes, so then it's like the puzzles start coming together. Oh, I was like 5 years old when I was going to that daycare in real life. So, and that woman worked in that daycare. But it wasn't until my mother was in the hospital with dementia that she mentioned that woman and described that woman in that church. And so it's like, then I'm like, wait a minute. I was so shocked I couldn't speak, because she was the woman of my nightmares. So sometimes what I got to realize is that, I'm 53 years old. So it's like, it can take you a lifetime to unpack trauma that has happened to you in your life. And sometimes it's someone else holds the secret to your trauma. Someone else knows what happened to you, but they think your spirit does not remember it, but it does, even if you can't articulate it. So that's what makes that child sometimes so quiet and withdrawn. So I got to realize, oh, wow. And then my mother says, once I started speaking, I couldn't shut up. All right. But then as I'm getting older, I'm like, but why did she want me to shut up? Why would you want me to shut up? Because what happens is that parent knows something happened to you, and they hope you don't remember it, and it just goes away, but it comes back up. And then if you start talking, they're afraid you're going to speak that trauma. So what I'm saying is this trauma thing takes a lifetime to unpack, but you just got to be like, pay attention when it appears and it shows itself. You're like, wow, this is really traumatic. And it's starting to happen, Fadhwa. It's happening more. The more we speak, the more is like another revelation of the layers of trauma that we endure throughout our lifetime. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. That was just a
lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you said, right? We have lifetime of stuff that we need to unpack.
Yes.
Some are minor than others. Some are very dramatic, and some are ones that we don't want to remember, right? And just like you said, you shared your story, we do have those traumas that we have our mind blocked it to protect us because it was so painful that it blocked us, right? So I have one such, but I am not ready to share that yet. It's that one piece of my broken piece that I am still working on it. But it came in pieces, and it almost took a year for the whole picture to unfold. But it came in pieces. It came in pieces.
Oh my God.
You know? And sometimes things like that happen to us, even in our childhood, and we block it off because it was so traumatic, right? Yeah, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It happened, but as a coping mechanism, we blocked it. And it could be subconsciously, just to protect us. It wasn't consciously that you go out there, especially as a young child, you don't know what conscious and unconscious is. But just traumatic, and you just, as a coping mechanism, something locks in there.
And you're right. It's a coping mechanism that you use. It protects you. You feel it protects you. But what I realized also is that there was a woman in the presentation today that spoke about that it's important that when your child comes to you, when they tell you about something that happens, that you listen. Because she remembered the woman that said, nothing really happened to you. You're fine. Why, you're lying. And I said, why should we believe you? And she's like, well, why shouldn't you believe me? And why would I be lying, right? So then those things stay with you. You get older and you remember who defended you, who believed you, opposed to who didn't, right? So what I remembered is when I went to my mother and I told her about something that happened to me at a doctor's office. You imagine, I was a young girl, and it's only recently that I realized it was traumatic what I went through, right? But when I went and told my mother was like, she shunned it. She acted like, oh, that is nothing. Oh, no. But I realized, you know what? That shouldn't have happened. But years ago, when I told her about what happened to me and she swept it over, just shunned it like, oh, it's not a big deal or whatever, I didn't even look at it as that was traumatic to an extent, because I love my mother and I didn't want to have to judge my mother, but as you get older and you realize that you've got to be that mother to your children and you hope that you can be there for them, you have to look at these things and say, you know what, that was wrong. But then you go, but she didn't know any better because I know my mother loves me. So it's like that, there's another layer of healing and forgiveness, because I could stay where I'm like, because I did have to go through the being angry with my mother. Don't think I just went to the forgiving my mother, she didn't mean anything. I had to go through by myself, not to my mother because I respect my mother, but by myself, I had to do that. What was she thinking? She must have been out of her mind. And I just let it rip. I was by myself, but I had to get that out. I actually did like a journal. And I just I never looked back at it, but I ripped it out on that paper, right? And then after that, I went into, you know what? She couldn't have been of her right mind. I had to get to that point in order to be able to nurture what happened to me, to really be okay with what happened to me, but still acknowledging that it was wrong. I'm not going to take away from the fact that it was not right. I have to say it is wrong what happened to me, but I have to acknowledge what happened to me was traumatic. So that's one of the stages, acknowledging was traumatic.
Yes, because healing is a process, right? Healing is a process. And one of the steps is to actually acknowledge it. You bring in a very good point when a child approaches the parent or the mother and shares something like that. But I'm always looking at the other side, right? And I'm thinking, what is the condition of that parent?
Yes.
Where are they at? Because sometimes if they could not even protect themselves at a certain time, they will feel powerless to protect their own child.
Yes.
We see it happening all the time, right? And we wonder, why is this parent not protecting their child? Or why was that parent not protecting me? Why did my mother not protect me? If they themselves feel powerless,
yes,
how can they can protect you? If they cannot even protect themselves, they cannot stand up for themselves. What makes us think that they will do it for you, right? So I'm always thinking on the other side, because for us, even through the healing process, judgment cannot exist when we're healing, right?
Yes.
We need to remove judgment from the equation completely. And it has to come from a place of compassion, where we're able to understand everything that the process that we're going through, like you mentioned, forgiveness, but also compassion. And we cannot heal and we cannot unpack those layers if we're also pointing fingers, or if we are judging others and even judging ourselves.
I still felt like, for me, I still have to be honest with that emotion that's inside of me before the healing and the compassion and the forgiveness comes. Trust me, I had to. Even when my father passed away, and I didn't realize I was angry with him until he passed away. And then I'm like, I'm angry. I was shocked. I shocked myself. But what it was that I had some things that I wanted to say to him. And I'm like, how dare you die before I say what I need to say to you, right? But I had to acknowledge that anger that was in me and look at it, like wherever it was coming from, I needed to acknowledge that I was angry. And then later, it took some years. It didn't just happen right away. It did not happen right away. But it was like when I met his son, which is not my mother's son, but I met his son and I saw he was a good man. He was a caring man. He was a loving man. He loved his children. He loved his wife, the things that I didn't see in my father. I said, wow, my father did something right. I mean, I could have looked at myself and said, well, he did something right because look at me, right? But I never looked at myself and said, well, he did something right. Well, look at me. I had to see another male. And I saw his son, and then I was able to say, hey. And then as I got to have a relationship with this son, I'm like, you know what? We were healing together. This son that I was like, why did he have this son? This son becomes a wonderful father, a wonderful man, a loving man. And then I started looking at my father differently, and then compassion came later. And then it was like, you know what? He did himself a disservice by not receiving the love that he could have received from his children. So it's like all those stages of healing, it's just a revelation, but it takes time. It doesn't happen just overnight. It just doesn't happen overnight.
Absolutely. There is no magic potion or magic pill to healing, for sure. And it's so important, like you mentioned, right? When we are going through something like that, and we are going through, I would say uncovering or opening up the layers, right? You're unpacking different layers. You're human. You have to feel those emotions. It's feeling those emotions that allow you to release them later on. Right? So allowing yourself to say, okay, you know what? I am angry. As a matter of fact, how dare you? Right?
That's right.
I didn't get a chance to speak. I had a say in this. I have a say in this.
Mm-hmm.
And because, you know why we feel? Because we were closed off. We never felt that we had the power to actually express ourselves.
Yes.
Right? So to open ourselves up and say, you know what? And oftentimes, we get angry when something happened.
Yes.
Something happens, something drastic happens. That's when that voice that was still locked up comes out and says, you don't get to leave until I speak. and that is coming from a place of pain, right? Yeah. It's coming from a place of pain, and it takes work. It takes time to heal those wounds and go from that place. So next time, not only would you have emotions even when you're angry, but at the same time, you're able to come back to that place of compassion, for sure.
Oh yes, compassion is the key. Compassion is the key, and it's all for you. It's for you. And then if you have children, it's for your children. That my work is a lot of times it's not just for me. It's mostly for my children. I want to leave them that. I want to leave them forgiveness. I mean, like children will judge me and say, "Oh, you just forgive people too easily. You're just forgiven," and they don't understand. I want a light, older years. I want my future to just be light and easier, just the load to just be lighter, right?
Yes.
The more baggage you carry, like we talk about the baggage, the more baggage you carry, it's like, to weigh you down, and you get older, you look like you're carrying all these bags. I don't want to look like that. I don't want to feel like that. I just want a lighter load, So that's why I'm like, you know what, the less baggage, the better for me. So
traveling light. Travel light. That's what I say, unpack, travel light, take what you need. Take what you need. That is necessary.
So sometimes even when people hurt you, right? And this is the thing about forgiveness, that you always speak about forgiveness, right? You don't always get a chance to get that sorry from that person. You don't always get that opportunity that person will come to you and say, "I'm sorry." Or you may not always get that opportunity to speak your mind to that person who hurt you, right? So even when my father died, I was on the floor in my bedroom when I found out he died. And when I realized I was angry, I was sitting on the floor in my bedroom. Never forgot this, right? This is about 21 years ago. And I could not go to his gravesite. I didn't even know where he was buried because my mother withheld that information from me. And you don't understand how when you want to have closure and you don't have closure, what it is that you have to be determined to have your own closure. And that's where I was. I was like, okay, I'm going to have closure right here on this floor. Since my mom won't give me the keys to the kingdom to release this thing, right? So then the anger gets transferred over to that mother. Well, I'm like, you know what? I don't want that. So I went on the floor and I let it out on the floor. I had my closure as if I was right there at the cemetery, and I let it go and I let it go. And the forgiveness, just being honest with it, it's like I'm having a conversation with him. So even, and I've done this many times, right? So when you have someone else from your past that has hurt you and they have never said sorry, and you have that baggage that they gave you from that trauma, you have to forgive within yourself, knowing, and this is what has helped me, knowing that they didn't know better. That they didn't, whatever they did at that time may not even be who they are right now. So it's like old stuff, right? So it's like you have to come to closure by yourself. Sometimes, like I said, without the presence of that person being there. You got to do whatever you have to do for you. And that's what I have done over the years. I have had to do that over the years.
Never, absolutely. We shouldn't give the power to anyone else.
Yes.
We hold that key. Like I know a couple of people who really, really hurt me, and I learned to forgive them, right? These are people who I thought would help me, protect me, right? Because you think these are people who would be always there to support you and help you. And those are the very people who end up hurting you, right? And I know they will never come and ask for forgiveness. So why am I going to hold off? Why am I going to take that burden?
Yes.
Carry it on my shoulder when they're moving on with their life like nothing happened, right?
Yes.
So there's some burdens we don't even need to carry.
Yes.
So release it the best way you know how. And for me, I can see this person tomorrow and I actually look at them and say hello with a smile. Because they have no power on me now.
Right.
They got no power on me right now. And that's the thing. We need to take that power back and not let anyone, because that powerlessness, that was always me, right? The sense of always feeling powerless.
Yes.
I was always like people dictating what I should do and how I should make my decisions, right? So I've learned to take that power back step by step. And each one of us can do that for sure.
Yes, you're correct. You're correct. Because, I've had a family member, let's go back to that, and he was a male. He was actually my other brother. And he had hurt me. It was like we were like sibling rivals, just always at it. And it was really bad. But what happens is, and this is the thing about life is so serious, right? it didn't stop me from loving him as who he really is. Despite his mistakes, I still loved my brother because I knew who he was, and I knew life happened and caused him to react in a certain way. I got a chance to look at it, right? And then when he was in times of need, I was there for him. I didn't even remember those things at the time. And even I'm going to tell you something though. There was a trigger from the past that hit me when it was a time to help him. And it hit me like fear, like, are you going to help him? It's kind of like that trigger hit me like, are you serious? And I could literally feel my body freeze up and tense up. Like, that could happen to you again. But then even as I accepted, like that feeling came upon me, in the next instance, my body just relaxed. It's like I was tense 1 minute and the next minute I was just relaxed. Like, you're going to do this, right? I recognized when that trigger came from my past, and when my body tensed up, I recognized it. And I was like, you know what? You're afraid from your past. But right now, at this moment, you're okay. You can do this. You can do this. So that's why it's like being conscious of what's going on and the healing that has to take, because it has to take place. The forgiveness and the healing. It's so many, you're going to be tested on, do you really forgive that person? That person is going to show up again. It's going to show up again and show up again. And sometimes, like I said, they may have a need that only you could fulfill. And it's happened to me more than once. And it's like, okay, do you really forgive that person? So I try my best to try to do this for me. Like I'm going to show up for me. This healing is for me. And then it's for my children. So, like I said, my children would look at me and judge me and say, you're just so forgive. I have to do the work. I have to do the work.
Healing is work.
It is.
Like, I don't think there's any single person, and that's one of the questions I asked today, right? Is there any single person here in the room who can raise their hand and say, I've never experienced any form of trauma?
Yeah.
Right? No one. We all have some form of the other. We have experienced some form of trauma, right? And each one of us, if each single person can find healing, each single person can find healing. It's just the intention behind it and to actually be open to it. Like I'm sitting here talking to you and I'm thinking, do you think I would have had this awareness and level of knowledge right now 2 years ago? I didn't have that. I was on a different role 2 years ago, right? A year ago, the growth, right? And that's what happens when you're healing and you're unpacking each layer, each piece.
Right.
A transformational moment.
Yes.
It transforms your life. And for every part that we heal, and as we're going through that path of healing our journey, guess what? There's going to be less pain to those around us.
Yes.
Because when we are wounded and we're in pain, others suffer around us. And as we are going through the transformation of healing, everybody else is going to feel it. There's going to be less pain.
Yes.
And I can talk about that from my own experience. I can see the transformation not only in my life, but I can see the transformation in my own kids, right? It changes them.
Yes, yes.
The energy changes.
Yes.
They get to see you in a different light and they get to see what's possible, right? And then now your communication and how you interact with them and how you relate with them is going to be very different, because now you're not coming from a place of pain.
Yes.
You're coming from a place of empowerment.
And they can tell. They can tell.
Of course, they can tell. They can feel it, and it impacts them in ways that we can never think. We cannot even comprehend how we impact them. Our pain impacts our loved ones, our children, or those around us. But through our transformation, also, are we able to impact those around us as well?
I totally agree. People can feel it. They can feel your energy. They can feel when you're carrying something. And, we're all going to go through things in life. We're all going to have moments where we're not our best self. We're going to all have moments where you're going to see life on our shoulders. where, you can't shake it, you can't hide it. Everyone in your presence could feel that you're dealing with something. As long as we're on this earth, we're going to be dealing with something. But my thing is to be honest with what you're feeling and even share what you're feeling, right? Even share with someone close, like meeting you. It's been like a breath of fresh air to meet someone. Oh my God. It's like every time I speak to you and I'm like, oh, and then I'll tell my daughter, do you know that Fadhwa went through the same thing? Fadhwa has 2 children just like me. Fadhwa did this. And it's like every day is another. And then as you unpack and I'm unpacking, I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. So it's like this, like you said, acknowledging those things, it just brings about, it's like a reward to acknowledge this. It's giving you another revelation, right? You're like, wow, all I need to do is be totally present, like totally transparent, totally honest with myself, being honest with yourself. And then the reward is, let me show you another level of unpacking to prepare you for the next journey ahead, to prepare you for that next journey. So I thank you. I'm so glad that I reached out to you and I followed my spirit when I said, you gotta say something to that woman. You need to send her a private message and say, hello, you're impacting me with your speaking, you're amazing. And it has been a wonderful journey, It's a long journey.
Thank you. I honor you. I honor your presence. I honor your friendship, your sisterhood. I think just talking to you, I've grown as well. We don't get too many people who are on the same journey, right? Mm-hmm. And to be able to have somebody who you can actually share and talk about things in a very open, without no judgment. Judgment, just being open and being transparent and being authentic and say, you know what, here's my mess. Here's my mess, here's my baggage, and for the other person to look at it and say,
so bad.
I see you. I still see you past your mess.
Yes.
You past your mess. I still get you past your mess. Yes. And it's very hard to find that, right? It's very hard to find that where you're able to just talk to someone without feeling that they're going to judge you. Yeah.
But you've helped me, because it's just your level of, I tell you, you have a gift, you have a whole, you're so far away from me, and yet your presence is felt right here, and it's not because you're so far, it's just how your whole non-judgmental way of opening up your heart and listening and hearing me and all, like everything I've shared with you, right? Even when I have been like just off, because sometimes I'm like venting and I'm like, and then I get off the phone and I'm like, did that come out right? Because Fadhwa has this very calm, inviting spirit, warm and comforting, nourishing spirit, right? So I haven't found that in a lot of our sisters. I'm not trying to judge my friends, but it's because also the level of how you look at your life and the way you have always looked at yourself and everything that you've gone through. You're looking at yourself instead of looking outside of yourself. So you're looking at yourself, and then we're on the phone. You're like, I gotta go pray. So you got prayer and spirituality within the folds of everything you're going through, right? So it's that balance that you have, right? That's so important. So then you realize that I realize I'm growing, because if I'm attracting someone like you into my life, that shows me where I'm at. And then when I attract more people like that, then I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm inviting in. So I think you couldn't have shown up when I was like really messy. And you probably would say the same thing with me. Like I was never really messy, but when I was kind of like still trying to be the one who's everyone comes to. That's what I've been for years. I've been like the depository of all it. Everybody's jumping, dumping. So now with you, I find somewhere to dump where you can balance it out. And then you honest with me. And then your feedback is not in a way where you're trying to judge me. So, that's what I hope so many people see you for who you are and receive the gift that you have given me from so far away. And I know also is also something that I asked God for to bring into my life. I asked God for a woman and friends like you, a circle of people like you. So I think when you're, like I said, when you're ready for that, it will show itself. It will present itself. So that's why we're right here like that.
Yes.
I know it.
You're reflecting back. And I'm reflecting back just the way you are. So thank you so much. You are honorable. You're an honorable woman. You're an honorable woman who has gifts. I'm telling you, the energy that you have, and there's so much in you that I can't wait to see. I can't wait, because I know right now it's just the tip of the iceberg. The Regina that I've come to know is just the tip of the iceberg. I cannot wait to see the greatness that you're going to bring into the world, for sure. So
I honor you.
I'm honored to be in your presence, my sister. I'm honored to have known you. And I'm just, every moment we talk, I know it's always a revelation for both of us. We get those aha moments. And I'm happy that we were able to have this conversation today, so our listeners and our viewers can benefit from it as well. It's just being open. I think all of us, if we open ourselves to the possibilities of what is possible, then anything is possible. Anything is possible. Had you told me this would be possible, had you told me I'll be doing this, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would have looked at you and said, you're out of your mind. Me? No. Me opening up and putting my mess out there? Are you kidding me? People will slaughter me, But I have been slaughtered maliciously with words. But you know what? It's okay. It's just a reflection.
I'm here to touch you.
It's a reflection of how people are. And I'm not going to go there. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, my sister, for being here today. I can't remember how time flew by, but I'd love to have you again. I know we had a topic in mind.
Yes.
I think because of the event that we went into kind of just took us to where we are today. I think that's maybe the conversation that was meant, the energy and the spirit presented itself. I think we'll come back again and talk about the topic we had in mind for sure.
Yes, definitely. We have so much to talk about.
Yes. We got a lifetime to talk about. 53 and 45 years combined. Look at that. That's how much we got to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Any last words before we close off?
I just honor you. And I thank you for the platform to speak and share my stories. I have so many more. So I honor you. And I just ask God to continue to enlarge your territory and to continue to elevate you into the platform that you belong, because the world needs to hear what you have to offer that I can see as a gem of life.
The gem of life, the gem
of life.
Yes, thank you so much. And I will definitely love to have you more, so you can come and share your gems of life for sure, so others can benefit as well.
Thank you, my sister. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for listening in. I just want to say thank you again. This is the Gems of Life show. I was here today with my beautiful sister, Regina. I hope you stay well and safe with your family. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, the Gems of Life show. Follow us every Friday on CKMS Radio 102.7 FM. And you know what? Please share the gems with everyone else. Stay well and safe, and aspire to inspire. Take care, everyone.